We have got the 8th day of Eagles training camp in the books, and it was a little bit of a slow day. There really wasn't a lot of news that was being reported, so I don't know if they treated this day as like a light practice for a lot of guys. We're going to go over Kevin Patullo's press conference, the injury report, all of that great stuff, and really what happened at practice today. Like I said, it wasn't much reported. It was slowly reported today, so let's get straight into all the Eagles news.
What's the boogeyman?
As a matter of fact, it was.
Yo, what is going on, guys? Hope you're having a fantastic day. So, the 8th day of Eagles trade camp in the books, and we heard from Kevin Patullo at the press conference regarding some of the news we kind of been looking out for. And one is Tyler Steen. He had a lot to say about Tyler Steen. It seems like he is the front runner for the right guard job as of right now. He says, I think really you just look at his body of work, and he's grown from the last couple of years until now. Then obviously on Friday, going against Jalen Carter, going against Jordan Davis, you can really see the intensity ramp up. And the want to and the attitude and just decision-making he has at certain calls he needs to make, and the communication's really growing. So you could see him at practice. We're going against a pretty good D-line, so I think that's really benefited him. Even after practice, Jalen Carter had some good things to say, that he's a hell of a player and thinks he'll start that right guard job. And just remember, he actually knocked over Jalen Carter man-to-man, knocked him on the ground. The last practice that we had a couple practices ago. So seems like Tyler Steen is really making a comeback here against a really good defensive line. Now, Kevin Patullo did talk about the left guard situation, or really talked about Kenyon Green. It looks like Kenyon Green is going to be at left guard, is going to stay at left guard, is not competing for that right guard spot. Remember, this was the trade from Chauncey Gardner-Johnson getting former first-round pick Kenyon Green, seeing what Jeff Stoutland could do with him, and it seems like they really like him on the left side a lot, so I guess Kenyon Green will be staying there. Toole actually talked about the wide receiver core, and there's a lot going on right now, and says he won't find out more until the Eagles hit the first preseason game, and then realistically after that, the joint practices next week versus the Browns, and that's going to be really big towards the depth at receiver, where the competition is. It's almost to a point where every receiver that's having a good camp has ended up getting hurt, like Danny Gray ended up getting hurt with a finger injury, then got waived when he was doing good in camp. Terrace Marshall turning heads early in camp and then got hurt with the leg injury, and he's still out. You got Darius Cooper out there that's playing really well, had another really good day today, and you had Elijah Cooks is still cooking at Eagles camp. Kevin Patullo had to say during this camp process is that he's not coordinating with Vic Fangio on what's being called. Like, literally, they're putting in these players in really forcible situations where they kind of have to figure things out their own on the calls and, you know, what's really going out on the field. So I actually really do like that, because then you get to really see the players kind of expand themselves a little bit on their knowledge of what they see or what they think that's going to happen on the field. So both coordinators are not telling each other what plays they're running, and they're letting the players really figure it out themselves in a lot of ways. Now, to go into the injury report for practice, it looks like the guys that did practice, Zach Bond is still out with the back, with the contusion on his back, so giving a lot of these other linebackers, more reps, and that's what matters. Now, A.J. Brown ended up on the list as of right now with a hamstring injury, so it looks like A.J. Brown will not be practicing the rest of Eagles training camp, probably not the next few weeks. They're going to be very precautious with him going into everything, so A.J. Brown is officially out. You have Lewis Sine, the safety, with a hamstring injury. Montrell Johnson, the running back from Florida, with a hamstring injury. And then you have Trevor Keegan that's literally, hurt. He's on the injury report like he was last offseason. Now is on the injury report again. Hopefully nothing crazy, but missing the time that he's missing, it just sucks, because they really want him to compete, at least depth for the right guard position, if that's going to be the case. But he is the third team starting center as of right now, so Trevor Keegan officially out for that practice. You have Terrace Marshall that's still out with the injury. I mean, at this point, guys, Terrace Marshall, this is really what's stopping him in his entire career, is that these injuries just keep piling up every single year, and can't hit the field, and he can't really win a job or compete for a depth job at this point. Mac McWilliams still out with a quad, which I think is hurting us from the inside corner standpoint. Ben Van Simmeren, since Jahad Campbell laid him out on a block, the ankle injury is still there with him, so he's still out. Now, the players that are limited as of right now, you have Jahad Campbell with the shoulder, Charlie Hughlett with the neck. I think Charlie Hughlett is I think he's a long snapper on the team. E.J. Jenkins with a hamstring. Andrew Makuba is still out right now, but still is doing some of the regular light drills that he's doing on his own with his position. So he's doing very light stuff. So progressively, I don't know if he's playing in a preseason game this week, but hopefully he is. I don't know until we find out more news the next couple days. It's going to be a big loss for Rakuba not to play in this first preseason game, but seems like he's coming back as quick as possible. Devontae Smith finally came back after the back injury, missed a few practices and finally doing some light stuff, but having Devontae Smith back is going to help the offense, going to help the defense with some of the competitions at corner, and iron sharpens iron. So having Devontae Smith back and not A.J. Brown, but, having one of them back is a good thing. Nolan Smith coming back from the concussion. He did miss the last couple days with that, so need to get him prepared, ready to go, especially to go into this preseason game this week with some practices under his belt, and then obviously the joint practices next week, so glad he is back. Now, obviously, these reports were coming out very light, and I don't know what was going on today. I just feel like it was like an extra slow, light day for probably the whole entire practice, but as it stands for the defense with some of the cornerbacks, it looks like Dory Jackson did start, and Ringo actually came in with first team and actually subbed out Quinyon Mitchell. So you had a Dory on one side, Ringo on the other. Dory Jackson actually got burned by Jahan Dotson on a big pass going downfield. It looks like it was overthrown by Jalen Hurts, and Dory kind of lost that one. I think the biggest weaknesses of Dory Jackson in the past has been he's bad against speedy receivers, especially that go vertical downfield, and he's not really good against the run, but coverage, he's kind of getting there, but definitely got beat on one rep by Jahan Dotson downfield. Now, Ringo came right back into this defense. He actually had a deflection on Dallas Goedert. He actually made a play on Dallas Goedert today. Thank God. I was waiting for something positive. I think that was not the only rep that he had, but at least if they threw his way, that was the only throw that went his way. That was reported. So not much to say off of one pass, but at least he did something in a positive form against Dallas Goedert. It's a good thing. We'll have to wait. Now, if there was a corner that came right in today, because you have some injuries right there with Mac McWilliams being out, Eli Ricks had a pretty good day. 7-on-7, had a deflection. Then he had one on Elijah Cooks in the end zone. Would have been a touchdown, and Eli Ricks smacked it down. It's nice to see that Eli Ricks is making somewhat of a little bit of a comeback or making some noise into this camp, because really since 2023, he hasn't really had many reps when we had issues at inside corner that year in 23 where he was kind of rotating in with a lot of guys because of a couple injuries to Zech McPherson and Avonte Maddox that year. And now under a brand new scheme with Vic Fangio, Eli Ricks is starting to make noise a little bit. I want him to play a lot. I would like someone to overtake the competition. Now, he made both of these plays, I think, from the inside corner spot. I don't think he played outside, but I could be wrong. It wasn't reported where he was at, but I would have to guess he was probably on the inside. And hey, look, if it's not Mac McWilliams still out with the injury, it gives Eli Ricks more of an opportunity to go in there and make plays, and looks like he's not wasting his time doing that. I felt like from the safety position, you had a couple guys actually make some noise today. Trishan McCollum has been sorely the backup in Vic Fangio's scheme behind their starting safeties. Even last year in 2024, he had multiple pass breakups. I know Andre Sam had a pass breakup on the goal line when it was goal line defense. So at least Trishan McCollum is making some plays. Obviously not the one I want to win the open safety spot right now. Not much on Sidney Brown from today or really the last few days, but nice to see Trishan McCollum, at least do something in this camp. And seems like Fangio has been more comfortable with him since last year. Jahad Campbell, they're moving him all over the place. They just keep doing it every single practice on 11-on-11s. He goes right in there on a blitz and should be a sack on Tanner McKee. He doesn't hit the quarterback, obviously, thank God, because we don't need quarterbacks to get injured now. But then went back to the next play. Then he went off-ball coverage as an edge rusher. That was the touchdown to Jahan Dotson that should have been with a Dory Jackson in coverage. Then he came right back in, went back, I think as an outside linebacker off-ball, or maybe went edge off-ball, and Aniyah Smith, I guess it was trying to be a catch in the middle of the field. Looks like he deflected that in front of Aniyah Smith. So I'm really loving how Jahad Campbell is on the edge, off-ball from the edge, or he's playing off-ball linebacker, period. I mean, just fantastic, just the way they're moving him around. The versatility is just so crazy. Jahad Campbell's having the strongest camp, and this linebacker core is having, as a group, It's an A+ format right now. Can't wait to see more from this group going forward. We heard some news from Ty Robinson today. I mean, about time. So he actually had a sack against the third team offense. I understand it's the third team offense, not facing the best talent, but at least he did something because his camp's been very quiet. Thought we'd hear a little bit more. Maybe we'll hear more going into the joint practices where things really start to get real. And in the rotation, we're really hoping that Robinson isn't a weak, kind of a weak individual in the second rotation playing next to Moro Jomo in this lineup. So it's going to be really interesting. And then you had Joshua Uche today, one-handed knocking over the 32-year-old tackle Kendall Lam right to the ground and getting a sack today. The physicality with Joshua Uche. And I think if you're going to get production with Nolan Smith. You're going to get production with Jalix Hunt. I think the third guy that's going to be major this season is going to be Joshua Uche. This is a guy that had a double-digit sack season with the Patriots a couple years ago. It was traded at the trade deadline last year to KC. Only played 6 games because he just didn't have enough time. He was playing a lot of catch-up trying to learn Spagnuolo's defense and, just decided to sit him on a healthy scratch for the Super Bowl. Sat him pretty much the rest of the year. So remember, Lane Johnson back in minicamp said, watch out for Joshua Uche. Guy's in his prime, guy's on a 1-year contract, and the guy is hungry, and I would watch out for him. Now, it looks like Dallas Goedert caught a big catch on the sideline, past Small Munden in coverage, and it seems like the Hurts-Dallas Goedert connection is just getting better and better. It's been one of the strong suits of camp, to be honest, offensively, and really have no problem with that connection. Small Munden, sometimes he wins some, sometimes he loses some in coverage. He's been doing really well, though. And Danner McKee had a big pass to Darius Cooper, the wide receiver. Darius Cooper is having one of the stronger camps. Really a nobody that's coming into camp, making noise on the depth at wide receiver, as well as Elijah Cooks, cooking people all day. But they were stopped a couple times today. But Darius Cooper's been pretty much a strong suit within this offense when it comes to depth at receiver. And where it's going to go, I don't know. Like I said, the more competition that comes in the building, the more we face another jersey to really put these guys to the test. And they're going to be coming out swinging. So the 8th day of training camp was an interesting one, and the news wasn't flowing out like crazy from every beat writer that was at the practice. And maybe it was an extra light practice today since it is Sunday and they have somewhat of a not longer week ahead of them, but they have some time before the Thursday night game against the Bengals for their first preseason game, where I think they will rest on Wednesday, probably have off after another practice to maybe another couple practices. We'll see how the schedule goes. But, at least you're hearing some names today. I don't think it was the most productive day from everybody, but at least we heard some positive things and not all negative. And that's all I got to say about it. Make sure you subscribe to the channel for more Eagles news every single day. Make sure you hit the like button because it helps out tremendously. I'll see you guys on the next one. Shake some up, follows live. Peace out, guys. Peace.